We're talking about prayer and the power of prayer. And a few years ago, Tabitha had her first time in the hospital with pneumonia. She was hospitalized for 2 weeks, and they couldn't figure out where the origin of it was. They'd ruled out all the different kinds of pneumonia, and they decided they needed to just send her home, and we would have the oxygen ready just in case. So we got the oxygen tank delivered to the house, and we're set up for that. And we brought Tabitha home that day. It was 2 weeks later, brought her home, and she was just still super weak, but we felt like she was going to heal better at the house than she was at the hospital. And when we got her home and I gave her just a little something to eat, she immediately started vomiting. And it was really, really debilitating for her weak body. She was already weak. And her bedroom is all the way at the other side of the house. So we moved her right there by the bathroom, our bedroom right by the bathroom. And she was so weak, she could not even sit up. And I was fearful, because I thought, this is the weakest I've ever seen my child, except for when she was 5 months old and going through open heart surgery. This was literally the weakest I'd ever seen her. And she was scared, and she had a fever. And I thought, do we need to go back into the hospital? And so my husband got up and he circled the bed, and he went over and he sat down next to her. I was just as exhausted as she was. So we would come back to the bed, and I would just lay down, and I would go to sleep with her cradled in my arm. And Chris had his hand, he was on the floor, and he had his hand up on her, and he just prayed and he prayed and he prayed. Like, I would come out of my sleep, and there he was, still praying out loud that God would heal our little girl. And it was the next day, she was sleeping. I got up, made my coffee, I'm moving around. I found about 9 o'clock, I kind of went in and I said, Tabby, are you okay? She opened up her eyes and she sat up straight in bed and she said, I'm all better. Flat out, no side effects. Her oxygen saturation level was at 98. She had no fever. She was eating everything under the sun. She was healed. And I know that it was because my husband sat there and our beautiful God heard him praying, God, we need a miracle. God, heal my little girl. And there's nothing more powerful than a parent praying for their child, in time of need, or a husband crying out for their wife, or a mom crying out, for the salvation of their kid, or the deliverance from drugs and alcohol and all of that. And so I kind of want to tie this in, because we have parents that are praying for their kids to not just quit drugs, because there's probably something they could do to quit drugs, but they want their child to have life and have it abundant. And remember, at our ministry, we see the need for this, because parents who struggle with drugs and alcohol, they come to the end of themselves and they realize that this is having an effect on their kids. So we are a ministry, a 1-year program that helps them hit this reset button, and then they overcome their addictions by allowing God to restore them and their families. One of the key components that a lot of Christians don't even know about, the power of, is fasting. I knew that for the deliverance of my husband before he was saved, and then even after he was saved, he struggled for a little while with drugs and alcohol. And so I started fasting, and I'm talking about fasting food. I went without food, and I love food. So I knew that if I denied my body of something, just like the word says, and I spend that time in prayer, and it's not like it's a magic pill, guys, but what it is it's following what scripture says to do. Sometimes some things only come from prayer and fasting, and there is such a powerful component of prayer when you deny yourself. King stomach no longer is king anymore. It's about King Jesus, and you're offering your body as a sacrifice, and you're saying, listen, I don't know how this works, God, but I believe you, and I'm going to do that. So we're going to put a link to an amazing sermon. It's just a short sermon on prayer and fasting from our pastor, John Lindell, and it is powerful. I really want you to click on that link, because it will help you understand a little bit about the power that prayer and fasting can bring to your life.